Hello everyone and welcome back to Lindsay Unfiltered, and today we will be looking into a document called Mica's Law. Now this document was sent to be a bill in South Carolina's legislature about relationships and coercive control. They wanted to name it after Mica because of the allegations that she was physically, mentally, and emotionally abused by her husband, J.P. Miller. Now, I got my hands on Mica's Law, and we're going to take a look at it and see all of the things that Mica Miller alleged that her husband, J.P. Miller, did to her. And we're going to see if we can draw any conclusions between that and Mica's untimely passing. If you guys like videos like this that revolve around scandal, true crime with a twist of humor, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We are on the road to 2,000 followers. I think we're about 70 away. So let's go ahead and just crush that milestone. We have many more to go. I'm going to be doing live streams more frequently. If you guys have any ideas for those, please drop them down in the comments below. But guys, with that being said, let's dive into the Mica's Law document. Okay guys, here we are with a copy of Mica's List. Now, again, this list was used to attempt to pass a coercive control bill in South Carolina's legislature. This was written by Mica's attorney, and these were allegations coming from Mica herself. Now we're going to read them one by one and see if we can draw any conclusions from these. Let's dig into this. Mica's List: abusive coercive control behavior examples. Keep in mind that all of the following allegations, these are allegations, guys, were taken from Mica's verbal story, her diaries, journals, and writings she left behind regarding her husband, John Paul Miller. Mr. Miller has not been arrested or charged with any crime related to Mica ever. Well, that has changed. Mr. Miller has been arrested recently for assaulting one of Mica's protesters. So that is a crime related to Mica, if you do ask me. Okay, let's start here from the top, okay? Isolating her from family and friends, okay? JP cut her off from her family and friends, taking her contact list by confiscating her cell phone and hiding it from her, telling her that her family is using her, are not good people and she should disassociate with them, forbidding her to spend time with friends and or questioning her incessantly about it so that the harassment outweighs the benefit of having friendship. B, depriving her of basic needs. JP would not let her sleep, keeping her up at night and pulling the covers off her every time she dozed off, throwing her clothes on the front lawn of their home, waking her up and screaming at her incessantly to the point where she had to leave to go to sleep in her car just to get some rest and peace. C, stalking, tracking her whereabouts. JP hired private investigators to follow and track her and put multiple GPS tracking devices on her car. After they separated, he would follow or find her by GPS tracker, and then he would drive by very slowly to make sure she saw him. He would walk into any place she was and go up to the table or area and make a comment or stand afar so she could see that he was present. Monitoring her communications. JP took her cell phone, went through her text messages and call logs, and claims he found 18 people had texted her that they were willing to listen to her if she wanted to talk about her husband, admitted in a recorded sermon. JP hacked into her email, iCloud account, and Facebook account and took over her identity. E, taking control over aspects of her life. JP controlled who she could associate with, where she could go, and all aspects of her life as stated herein throughout. Took her driver's license, wallet, purse, house, and car keys, and changed the locks on the doors. So from here, what we are seeing from these allegations, it seems as if JP is a very controlling person. I control who you talk to. I control where you go. I control what you do. I could imagine it being a very constrictive lifestyle, having to bow down to somebody's every command. F, he allegedly deprived her of support services. JP took her cell phone, her car, Apple Watch, and convinced her that she did not need a lawyer. From the pulpit, he gave a sermon and chastised her and any woman or man that texted his wife and had encouraged her to confide in them about her husband, the pastor, thus shutting down even a private confidant. She became afraid to speak out. I do believe I saw that footage with JP constantly making remarks about Mica, trying to make them in a lighthearted or funny way, but you could tell that they were truly weighing on him. G, expressing her worthlessness. JP told her that she was lazy and mentally ill, that her breasts were too small, that her family was ignorant, and that they used her, and that she was not a good Christian woman if she questioned him or did not submit to him or keep all of his secrets. This is giving me textbook narcissist, right? Okay. Humiliated, degraded, and dehumanized her. JP forced her to submit humiliating acts that disgusted and hurt her. He would tell her she was mentally ill and have her hospitalized against her will. He put her down for having ideas or getting inspired by outside influences, telling her or others that she fell for anything, i.e. not smart. JP uploaded a semi-nude photo of his wife to the internet and later apologized in an email and attempted to minimize the damage by stating it was only up for an hour. Whose pastor is this, right? What man of God behaves in a way? It seems like he was using the Man of God Act to cover up what he really was or what he was really going through. So he had to show a very godlike and Christian persona, but when really there was a lot of secrets running rampant. Prevented disclosure to authorities. When Mica would threaten to expose JP, he would ramp up his abuse, tell her that if she did, then she was not a Christian woman, not a dutiful wife, that she was acting like the judge, only God is the judge, and that she was required by the Bible to protect him and not disclose what he did to her. In fact, according to JP, the Bible says she is supposed to forgive him for his abuse, and as a dutiful wife, is to obey her husband, i.e. tolerate the abuse. If she does not, she is sinning. Wow, this sounds a lot like, what's that lady's name from Utah? Ruby Frankie. This is what that's giving. It's giving, I know you're a Christian. I know you believe in God. I know you love God. So if you don't do these things, you are not only disobeying me, you're disobeying God, right? That type of manipulation to pit somebody's God against them. Like, that is a different thing. That is a different type of thing, because in Mica's defense, she might have thought that, hey, he is the pastor. He does have a deep connection with God, in my opinion. So maybe JP is right. Maybe I need to just deal with this because that's what God wants, right? Financial abuse. JP removed her from bank accounts and told her she did not know how to manage money, but required her to pay her own car payment, car insurance, and medical bills. Rumor has it that JP Miller had a $400,000 plane, millions of dollars in assets, and that is a rumor. So if you have all of these assets, millions of dollars worth of assets in a plane, why on earth would you make your wife pay her own car payment, car insurance, and medical bills? I'm just being honest here. You know that she needs you for financial support. And, you know, you're bringing in a decent amount of money. Why should she have to worry about medical bills? Why should she have to worry about her car payments? You're the one who got up in front of the pulpit and said it was hard to get her medicine to her. If it was hard to get her medicine to her, why didn't you pay the medical bills? Why did you leave the medical bills up to her? And I know a lot of people might say, well, Lindsay, she's a grown woman. But she's your wife. You told us you'd do anything for her. It was hard to get her medicine to her. Then it was your responsibility to get her medicine to her. Seems like you used the medicine against her. Threats to hurt her, her family, or himself. If she hinted of exposing JP, he threatened to unalive or that he would jump off of a bridge. He also made similar threats if she said she wanted to leave or divorce him, or if she refused to return to him after he threw her out. He threatened her family with gun violence. JP threatened to divorce her if she did not obey him and did not take the pills he gave to her. The threats to himself, I've seen that before. If you feel like a relationship isn't working out and the person says, well, if you leave me, I'm just going to end it all. That is the deepest form of manipulation, ladies and gentlemen. Think about a relationship you're not happy in, and this person is telling you, if you don't stay here, then I'll just end it all. Or actually doing those things in front of you, pretending like they are about to do that. The trauma behind that type of action is very, very severe, right? There was no threats to child, threats to reveal or publish private information when we know about the photo, but also JP would make videos of her in private settings. We have a Diddy Jr., JP Combs, and threatened to upload them if she did not do what he wanted. He convinced her to send him a topless picture meant for only the eyes of her husband, and he uploaded it to the internet when she did not comply with his demands. And I've read an article that says that he admitted to uploading that video of her, or that photo of his wife nude. We're talking about a pastor here, guys, okay? You have to think about how much courage it takes a person to go to church, how much courage it takes a person to try to change their life and get religion into their life or spirituality into their life, right? So when they come to you, they're being very vulnerable. A lot of vulnerable people are in church. To think that the man on the pulpit is intimidating people, manipulating people when they're at their most vulnerable, it sends chills down your spine, does it not? Because in certain churches, the pastor is put on a pedestal. So we think of the most holiest person in the church times 10, and that would be your pastor. He can do no wrong. But again, he's a man, he's human. But these things don't seem like actions that ever were attempted to be stopped. Now we can roll into N, which is assault. JP kept many guns and knives in their home. He punched holes in the walls during his fits of rage. And he said he was on the way, armed and ready, when he demanded she leave her sisters and come home. JP kept her in a constant state of panic and fear that she would do something to trigger him. SA, while she was hospitalized, JP demanded that she engage with him while she lay in the hospital bed. JP forced her to perform acts against her will and demanded that she watch him in acts with others. And forced her to sit still so others could touch her against her will. JP Combs. JP told her and preached on Sunday that if she did not submit to his every request for relations in any manner he desired, then it was her fault if he got his needs fulfilled by another woman or man. Hold up. Hold up. Wait, what? So JP Miller Combs said that if Micah didn't do it, then the next woman or man would. Where did men come into this? I didn't know men were involved. Okay, so JP is allegedly, bisexual? What are we saying here? Or man? And you're telling people of your church this as well. That's the creepy, sketchy, throw it off, fucked up part, okay? You're telling people of your church this as well. So when they get home and their husband demands something from them, they have to feel like they have to submit or give something they don't want to give. Whew. Preventing her from having transportation. JP slashed a total of 5 of her car tires. He inserted razors in her tires, potential to cause her to wreck. JP took her vehicle that was titled in her name and paid for solely by her and hid it from her. In order to be able to get to work, she was forced to buy a second vehicle, thus giving her 2 car payments and insurance costs. JP took her purse, driver's license, and her car keys to prevent her from leaving the house. Okay. Stop. So let's just make a small revelation here, okay? JP tells us, right? Tells me, tells you, tells his church congregation that Mica was very sick mentally and we couldn't get her medicine to her, right? The way you dealt with her alleged mental illness, JP Miller Combs, is that you hid her from the outside world. You hid her from her family. You hid her from her friends. You took everything from her so she could not reach out or be a sentient being. You did that. And that was your way of fixing her, right? That's why you put the tracker on her car. That's why you did this. That's why you did. That was your way of trying to help her by cutting her off from family and friends, allegedly. By taking everything she owned, allegedly. That was your way of getting her the help she needed, right? I don't have reason to believe that Mica would want to just boldly lie on John Paul Miller Combs, okay? Wouldn't be surprised if you took her medicine from her alleged medication from her, right? Interfering with her work. When she worked at the church, JP would randomly fire her for disobeying him, and then he would hire her back if she agreed to certain acts or some other list of demands. He allowed her or wrote letters to her on church letterhead, demeaning her and putting her down. She had to leave the job that she really loved, the church, and take a job in the restaurant industry. The above tracks the originally proposed bill, A through P, and the below are additional behaviors that may be added to the bill. 1. Emotional abuse. Everything stated above and below, and even more that cannot be told due to the humiliation of it to the victim, Mica. Ignoring requests and commands to leave her alone. She asked him over and over to leave her alone, but he would not. After a police officer warned him to leave her alone, he trespassed into the gated community to leave a present or gift on top of her car. Cruelty to the dog. JP threw Mica's belongings out of the house and then demanded that she come get her dog. She knew that she could not keep the dog at the apartment she was staying at in the time, and he knew that. When she did not immediately get the dog, he took the dog to her apartment and tied the little dog to the front door handle. He knew that she was not home and left the dog there. She had to leave where she was at the time to go home and get the dog. She found a home for the dog, but when JP found out about her giving the dog to someone else, he went there and demanded the person give him the dog back. Destruction of property. JP intimidated her by damaging her property, breaking her things, giving away her things, or throwing them in the trash. He keyed her car, dented the hood with a dumbbell, backed it into something, damaging the trunk, and slashed the tires and cut up the passenger seat. Destruction of supporting evidence. JP actively sought out her journals and diaries where she kept logs of details of things that he did to her. He found and destroyed many journals and writings belonging to Mica, which he intended to use as evidence to prove his destructive behaviors and abusive tactics. He also erased evidence, photos, videos, and writings that she kept on her iCloud and cell phone. I wonder if that's what he was looking for those days after she passed, when he raced to her apartment complex and said that the leasing manager, or some people in my comments said that was a friend of hers that was living with her, didn't let him in. Is that what you were looking for? Why are you looking for that if you had nothing to do with it? If you don't feel guilty, then why are you looking for it? It looks like you abused her to the point where she felt like not living would be a better outcome. And that is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, okay? A lot of people say that they believe that JP did it, right? He had a hand in it, but I don't believe he did it, right? Indirectly, 100%, right? Indirectly, 10,000%. Allegedly, in my opinion, I'm not a police officer, I'm not a detective, I'm not a Inspector Gadget, but I can tell you from what I see, right? As her husband, you were supposed to guide her in the right way, right? As her husband, you're supposed to care for her, nurture her, protect her. all of those things, and you failed. And that sucks, right? It sucks. I did find the postnuptial agreement online, and that was a real document that was in one of their divorce filings. Misuse of law enforcement. JP called the police on her for no reason. He reported her for a crime she did not commit, making her the subject to a police investigation, which became unfounded and dropped. The officer allegedly told Mica it was abuse of law and a waste of police time. Misuse of legal process. JP filed papers twice in probate court to have her involuntary committed, claiming she was manic, and asking for a mental health evaluation, claiming she was a danger to herself. The probate judge disagreed. JP convinced her to drop the divorce case against him, and then turned around and filed his own case in family court against her, and then he dropped his suit shortly after filing. Adultery, promiscuity. JP cheated on her many times. He sent nude pictures of himself to other women. He paid a woman from his church $10,000 to destroy a video of him. He flirted with other women. He dated other women. He paid with both men and women, people known as you know what. Ooh-wee. Oof. Why is it that these pastors have these secret background relationships where they're paying for it and in hotels and girl, what is going on, right? Men and women, women and men. Whew. Seriously? Who's not saying something? Somebody knows something then. She wasn't the only one that had to pick up on this behavior from him. If you've known JP Miller, I want to talk to you. I want to do an interview with you just so we can know more about his character. So please comment. Let me know if you know him on a personal level as someone of the church. Chime in, okay? Stealing her identity. JP took her cell phone and sent texts to her family and friends pretending to be her. JP sent emails and texts from her accounts to church members and family pretending to be her, admitting she was doing bad things. His attempt to disgrace her name. Cyber technology abuse. JP got access to her technology, changed her passwords to go over her accounts, and hacked her social media, her iCloud, cell phone, and email. He posted on social media feed and then tore it down and then locked her out of her account. He would text her about details of where she was, who she was with, and what she was wearing, or ask questions that only someone was there would know to ask. Medical abuse. JP declared her bipolar, forced her to take lithium, his own prescription, monitor whether she complied with taking the pills, and forcefully gave her testosterone shots in her arms, thighs, and butt. JP would make her swallow pills in his presence if he thought she did not take them. He would cut them up and put them in her food, his own admission. Okay, so what are the testosterone shots for in her arms, legs, and butt? I find it kind of hard to believe that she was on testosterone, right? Wouldn't that show up? I feel like she would have a deeper voice. She would start growing a beard or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. What's up with and why was he giving her that to start off with? Was it because he liked a little bit of both and hey, I don't know. And lithium? If it wasn't her prescription and he's just giving her lithium, I don't know. This is crazy. But she did say something about forcing somebody to take, you know what? It might have been that lithium. The fuck? Spiritual abuse. JP knew how much she loved and adored Jesus and the teachings in the Bible, and that she wanted to be a good Christian. So he used it against her. When she wanted to divorce, he told her God hates divorce and it is a sin. When he would do terrible things to her, he would tell her that God said she cannot judge him as a good Christian. She is to forgive him, and even more so as his wife. Oh, So that video that she made about abuse, about when she said God hates divorce, she didn't mention those things in that video. Maybe it was just JP saving face. Okay, church abuse is number 14. JP weaponized the church against her and often used the pulpit to give sermons that were really messages to Mica to correct her ways, or were directives to her, or sometimes used to demean her name to the congregation. She felt strongly about tithing to the church, but JP refused to tithe to his own church for about 4 months, but he encouraged the congregation to do so, and this was very upsetting for her. He wrote letters to her on church letterhead for the purpose of harassment. Phone calls to everyone. JP found out she went to another church. He called the pastor to explain her issues. JP found out she got back in touch with a female friend. He called her to see what was going on. JP called and texted her family. JP called her work. JP called her roommate, her godmother. JP called members of the congregation. JP called her lawyer after she passed away to tell his side of the story and asked for Mica's retainer money to be refunded to him. Physical abuse without marks. JP finger punched her in the throat. He held her up against the wall by her throat, slapped a drink out of her hand, and while out in public together, he snatched her plate of food from her and threw it. Whew. Those are a lot of shocking, disgusting allegations, right? And some of these things I have seen in relationships that go bad. Some of these things I've seen. The way that he needed to have control over Mica, allegedly, in my opinion, was a huge issue. Made it feel like she couldn't step here or step there without doing something wrong. Walking on eggshells is what we call it. Never knew when he would request this or request that. It's just a sense of being tired, a sense of being exhausted, because you know that this person that you live with or this person that you're married to will suck all of the life out of you. So I definitely feel like a lot of this may be true, okay? And there was another rumor that I heard that, her journals may have been turned over to police at some point, or probably turned over to a lawyer. This bill is called Micas Law, and here it is here. It defines coercive behavior, and it tells us that we cannot use it in the state of South Carolina. Now, this bill hasn't been passed into law, but it definitely shows us what coercive behavior is. It definitely shows us what controlling behavior is. It definitely shows us what personally connected people are. Okay? So, and it shows everything that can constitute coercive behavior: monitoring a person's time, taking control over aspects of a person's everyday life. Basically, the John Paul Miller alleged handbook, right? This is the entire bill. And this is why Micas List was proposed, okay? Go back and reread Micas List and notice that it follows the proposed law, which clearly indicates that had the bill been signed into law years ago, there is a possibility that a warrant would have been issued for John Paul Miller's arrest. Upon his arrest, he would have been under a no contact order, which would have protected Mica. That arrest and no contact order could have provided that small window she needed to escape his alleged abuse. And finally, assuming her allegations were proven, he may have been convicted of coercive control, a felony, and sentenced to jail up to 10 years. With incidents like this occurring, we see legislators, lawmakers, lawyers trying to add things to bills so this won't be an occurrence. You can only do so much when the cops are telling you, oh, it's civil law, it's civil property, it's family property, y'all are married. But this bill would push and give people like Mike a little bit more bearings when they call the police and beg for help. What do you guys think about Micas List? Do you guys think it's accurate? Do you guys think you could add a couple things to it? Let me know in the comments down below. I really enjoyed reading this with you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye now.